Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. Very happy to welcome Alara Sage here. And you are a mentor, a womb shaman, and a Shakti Activator. Okay, I have no idea what those things are, so please tell me.
Yes, thank you, Kyle. So I help both men and women to heal sexual trauma, sexual energy, their creative life force energy. So Shakti is our creative life force energy, the energy that we use to create our reality. So I help men and women to really understand how to utilize that energy, heal that energy. I also help with infertility. And yeah, I help people to live ecstatically through the connection to their creative life force energy.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Um, so yeah, this all came about to me when I had a spontaneous kundalini awakening. So kundalini is kundalini Shakti, and kundalini is the coiled serpent before it's activated in our body, and then it becomes the Shakti. And that energy moves through our body from the base of our body up to our crown for divine union. So back in like 2014, I was driving my car and I was working on horses at the time. I used to be an equine physical therapist. So I did physical therapy to horses. And I was driving my car, going to meet the horses, and I was luckily on a back road. And my higher self came in and said, Om 3 times. And every day I meditated. I didn't practice oming. I knew what it was. So I was like, okay. So I took a nice deep breath, Om, all the way to the end of my breath. And I did that 3 times. And at the very end of the third breath, an energy shot from the base of my body through my body and up out my crown. And I went into a full body orgasm.
Oh, a full body orgasm?
Yeah, full body orgasm.
All righty. I guess I should have put a warning at the beginning of the show here.
Yeah, I'm all about explicit content. But this was just driving my car, right? Like there was nothing sexual there. And so I pulled the car over because I was really in this like immense energy of orgasm and bliss. And I didn't know what was happening to me. I was just in it. And so after a couple of minutes of that going through my body in waves, it subsided and I was in just this pure ecstatic bliss state. And I mean, just lit. I remember driving back, getting back on the road and driving down the freeway. And I had the music cranked and I was like dancing in my seat and I was waving at everybody. And I was just so lit. And the experience continued for the rest of the day. It started to kind of taper off. But I still didn't know what had happened to me. I knew kind of what Kundalini was, but I didn't know that that's what had happened to me. And what experience after that was about 5 months of emotional chaos because Kundalini Shakti is deeply healing and transformative to our being. And as it shot through my body, what it does is it releases all of the suppressed trauma and suppressed emotion. At this time in my life, I thought that I was really emotionally stable, and I was actually just emotionally suppressed. I thought I had everything in alignment and, I was good, and I was actually very shut down and numb. But when we're numb, we can't feel. So we don't actually feel that we're numb. When we're shut down, we don't usually know that we're shut down. And this blew me open. So for 5 months, I went from laughing hysterically at nothing to dropping on the ground, crying with a deep grief that I didn't even know where it came from, to raging and screaming until my throat was sore. And I asked my higher self, am I going crazy? And my higher self said, breathe and allow. And I asked that several times because it really felt like I was going crazy. And about 5 months after the experience, it started to reach an equilibrium. And as the universe always does for me, a book came into my lap called Kundalini Awakening. And the first chapter was about what's called a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, which is not very common. And that's what I had experienced.
So how does one go about doing what you did? I mean, is it just spontaneous, or do you train for this? What happens?
No, I mean, most people that work with Kundalini, they're training, like Kundalini yoga and particular types of breath work and pranayama are ways in which people work to activate and move the Kundalini up the body to the crown. It's usually a very slow process.
Mm.
So it's usually not as dramatic as what I experienced.
Well, when you were talking about trauma, I've always been real open on my show because I know somebody else out there's experienced the same things that I have, and I want to know that there's help and hope out there. I was molested as a child, and I know that has affected me a lot through the years. I did go through a period where it seemed like everything was wonderful and great, but prior to that, I'd had a meltdown, a shutdown, I don't know what you want to call it. I like you, I thought I was going crazy. I was hearing voices, and I just fell into my closet. I curled up into a ball and I just cried.
Mm.
And I ended up having to go in the hospital. And then that's when everything finally kind of was opened up to me, like, hey, this is what's wrong with you. Now, granted, they love to throw pills and stuff at you. And I have to say this because I'm not a doctor. You talk to your doctor before you do anything like I've done, but I weaned myself off the medication. I got into meditation. So got off the meds, went into meditation, and I've been able to handle things a whole lot better. Um, I, what you're talking about, I've never even heard of before. So I'm kind of curious. You help people that have gone through things like what I went through.
Yeah. So I appreciate your authenticity and your vulnerability. I too was sexually molested, first by my grandfather, who was very close to me, and then again, by a boy. It was my parents' friend's son. And, I had forgotten, I had blocked out that my grandfather had molested me. And it took till after that spontaneous Kundalini awakening that the imagery and the memory started coming back. And it was so intriguing because at first I was like, that can't possibly be true, you know? But when I would see the images, my body would just react so intensely. And, just holding myself through that experience, this would happen in meditation, is when I would be shown the images and realizing that it was true, and that I was ready to heal from it. I was ready to first own that it happened and move through it. It's remarkable the amount of people who have been molested, sexually abused, um, that don't know it, have forgotten, and or don't talk about it. Our society has not been overly compassionate and open about these conversations. And so it really affects us. I mean, for the most part, what it does is we become ashamed. And shame is a very low vibration. And that was the other thing I wasn't aware of. I wasn't aware of how much shame I held in my sexual energy, how ashamed I felt of myself there. And it was through the healing and the releasing of that shame that I came back to the innocence of that within me, the realization that our sexual energy is absolutely innocent. It is just a product of creative life force energy. The universe is always having sex with itself. It's always occurring all around us. But because humans have been so deeply wounded there, we've created it to be shameful or wrong, or, yo, we can't talk about this, right? That's off limits, or like it has to be behind certain doors. And why? Why are we putting these conversations behind doors when it is a completely natural state of who we are? And so my work has been just through that process in myself, helping so many people realize that innocence within themselves, which truly brings them back to joy
Hmm.
and presence and the fulfillment of the moment, because that's rooted in our creative life force energy. Just that this very moment not only can be enjoyable, it can actually be erotic, not with other people sexually, but just the pleasure. Every single moment can be pleasurable, erotic, sensational. But like, wow, that's so much. We've suppressed and oppressed that beautiful nature of ourselves.
What happened to me, I can remember parts of it, but some of it is still kind of blocked out. Are you able to get people past that point?
Yeah. We don't always need to remember all of it to heal it. So it just depends on the person. Some people, for whatever reason, the information wants to be seen. And we do that and we hold that in a very strong energy of love. And other times we can just shift the energy and they don't have to remember because the energy leaves the body and that's where it's stored is in our body. And it's so important to understand that this creates so much issue. It creates sickness and disease in our body.
When someone finally decides that they want to do this, how do they start out?
It takes a lot of courage. So it's always first and foremost, giving yourself permission to go down this road and to feel fear or to feel the emotion or to not always understand and just find the courage in your heart to take action, because it's going to unravel in the most beautiful way if you can just have the courage to take action on it. And if you can feel that courage, and it doesn't mean courage isn't a lack of fear. Courage is the ability to take action even when you feel fear. There's been so many times that I've been filled with fear, but I've found the courage to just take that tiny step forward. So finding that courage, finding the understanding that this is going to deeply transform you in the most beautiful and radical way. It'll change your relationship with yourself. It'll change all of your relationships. It'll change your wealth and your abundance. It'll change how you create your reality. It'll change your availability to love, to pleasure, to bliss, to ecstasy. It's so profound. So finding that courage, and then, I obviously recommend working with somebody if you don't have a strong connection to your own higher self. Uh, the only reason I made it through what I made it through was because I had my higher self and that connection, and I trusted what my higher self told me. Otherwise, I would have wanted assistance because it was really intense. Now, most people aren't going to go through what I went through, but still support is very important in this way. It doesn't have to be somebody like me that you pay, right? It could be just a really close person in your life that you feel like you can talk to them about and ask them for your support. But having that support, like you don't have to do these things alone. And having another person that's there for you when you are scared or when you do feel like you don't know and you don't have the answers is so profound. And then it's really just about setting the intention. If you set the intention, it will begin.
And how do you get in touch with your higher self?
It's from our heart. So you have to be out of the mind, out of the space of the continuous thought. And you know this, Kyle, right? Through meditation, the sinking in, the dropping in, as the mind softens and lowers the brain waves, we sink into presence. And from your heart, you can just ask higher self. Always you want to say higher self. So that's the clarity of the communicative channel. And you can begin to connect to your higher self there.
So once you've decided to take these steps, where would you start with someone?
Well, we learn first and foremost since safety,
Mhm.
because I get emotional talking about this, but when we're little children and we've been taken in that way, our sense of safety is totally destroyed. We don't feel safe anymore. We don't feel safe in our body. We don't feel safe in life. We don't feel safe around other people. And we will create that sense of not safety over and over again. We'll create it through betrayal. We'll create it through circumstances in life that validate that we're not safe. And so in order to heal, we have to come back to that trust and that feeling of safety. So first and foremost, I start that with my clients because I hold that vibration. We just breathe into our bodies and begin to connect once again to safety.
You go into like breathing exercises and meditation. Is there
Yeah,
anything else?
holding the awareness at the root chakra,
Hmm.
and just holding your awareness at that root and breathing. When we breathe in, you can imagine as if you're breathing into the root chakra. And as you're breathing in, you're opening, you're expanding the root. You are receiving. That's the breath in. And as you exhale, you're releasing, letting go, opening, expanding, releasing, letting go. And that in of itself will ground you into your body and begin to release that sense of not safety.
Curious is, some people do develop all kinds of diseases and things along that line when they have trauma. And some of these are, you're told by your doctor that, this is incurable. You're going to have this the rest of your life. You ever see people heal from that?
Absolutely. I was one of them. I was diagnosed by Western medicine with chronic Lyme's disease, and I cured it. And I remember talking to the doctor who did the lab work and told me I had it. And he said, "Yeah, you don't have it anymore." And I said, this was over the phone. I said, "But I thought that was impossible." And he said, "It is." And that was like, he had nothing more to say. He literally had no more words. So, absolutely. You know, miracles are not as distant and as obtuse, vague that we feel that they are. Miracles can happen all the time. Our body is incredible. Western medicine knows how incredible our bodies are. But the thing is you have to get past the mind. for the body to experience those miracles. And most people don't have any control over their mind. Their mind is just a wheel of thought that turns at rapid speed. So for them to heal from those such diseases is quite a journey, quite an intense amount of work, but it's absolutely possible. And to presume otherwise is really not to understand the power of the source, the creative life force energy that we literally are. You know, we flicker in and out of existence faster than the speed of light. And every time this is quantum science. And every time we flicker back into existence, we're choosing what we're flickering into existence to be. And so all we have to do is begin to believe to flicker into existence differently.
I know there's someone out there that's watching this and they're saying, I've tried all these things. It's another one of those hippy dippy, alternative healing things. And I know there are folks that have tried similar stuff and they just can't seem to make it work. What would make this different?
I can't really speak to that for everybody because it's very unique and individual.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, when I work with clients and what we're doing is we're going into karma, generational energy, ancestral energy, and past life energy, because that's the root of all of it. That's what we incarnate into this life with. So to get to the core, you have to go beyond just who you are in this life, truly.
And you do like past life regression or anything like that?
Yeah. So as a womb shaman, I take people through what's called the creation point. It's the light at the end of the tunnel through which we are brought into this world and through which we leave. And so I take people into past lives, and it's, that's where the real transformation happens. All the karma is expressed there, the relationships between ourselves and our parents and our ancestors. It's so incredible. And they feel all of the emotion in their body. It's a sensational experience because it's stored in their body.
I did a past life regression. And I'll say, even if you don't believe in that kind of stuff, if you just try it, it's so life changing. I thought, how in the world is this going to work? But whenever I was actually seeing these images in my mind, and I say, I don't care if it was a parlor trick, even if it was, it changed my life. And with meditation, I mean, I'm a living example. You're talking about a guy who was taking so many medications. It's like I was a walking pharmacy. I would carry a
Mm.
backpack that was filled with medicines, and I hardly take, even not even half of what I used to take before. I don't take anything for depression, anxiety, PTSD anymore. I
Hmm.
stop and I think, I get into that meditative state. And you talking about I'm a country boy basically from Texas, all right? I went to New York for the first time several years ago, and I would have never attempted this, but I got on the subway and I did my meditation before I got on there, and I was perfectly fine. Even if I was taking those medicines before, I still would have had a freak out being in, it felt like you're being in a cage or something. And now it's so freeing, and I don't have to take a
Hmm.
pill for it.
Celebrating you, Kyle, celebrating you. So that's a really big deal. I really honor you for
Thank
the
you.
work that you've done and the journey that you've been through.
And medicines, a lot of those make you feel worse than what you did before you started taking them.
And they're just they don't get to the root cause. You're not healing yourself. You're not transforming yourself. You're just putting a band-aid over a wound that
Mm.
doesn't heal. And the Band-Aid, like you said, doesn't even necessarily make you feel all that great. I mean, what I've experienced, my partner has taken anti-anxiety medication when we first met. And it was a numbing factor, it numbed him. And, he got off of them because of the numbing factor. And sure, he didn't feel anxiety, but he also didn't feel a lot of other things. He didn't feel as much joy. He didn't feel as much sensation sexually. It is a numbing factor. And all of those pills, they can be very useful when you need them for a particular stage of your life. But I invite anybody who is on that medicine to just begin to realize that you can heal the core wound. And of course, do it with your doctor and do it in ways that you feel safe, right? But just know that you still need to get to the core of it to get off those medicines and really be a different person than staying on that medicine for the rest of your life and truly missing out on who you are as a fractal of divinity.
And it's a vicious cycle because you take those medicines to try to make yourself feel better. But I know I had to take medicines just to filter my kidneys and my liver because of the medications I was taking. And that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you
that says a lot.
Exactly. And you do this in person, online, both?
Online primarily. Yeah.
And what's your website?
alarasage.com.
And I'm assuming you're on social media.
I am. Everything is Alara Sage. And I just feel called to say to anybody, any of the listeners, that if this is something that's just really out of the box for you, it's always beneficial when we just open our minds. It doesn't mean that we have to take on those concepts or beliefs. But if we allow ourselves just to open our minds and see another belief structure, see another perspective, see a way of being that isn't our own, it really brings humanity together. We can still disagree, but we can allow for the presence of all of the different perspectives to exist simultaneously.
Try. That's what I say. Just try it. I was that kind of person that, I was embarrassed to tell anybody, oh, I'm going to try this thing. Oh, that's just some hippie thing, And just what does it hurt just to try?
Exactly. Exactly.
And you might be surprised. Did I think meditation was going to work for me in the beginning? No way. Never in a million years. And then now look, it's pretty incredible. Well, I'm going to put all your links in the description to make it easy for folks to find you. Oh, and I was going to ask you, is there some kind of consultation fee or what do you do when someone first gets in contact with you?
No, I do like a free connection call if somebody is interested. I really believe in connection.
All right. Well, again, I will put those in the description to make it easy for everyone. But Alara, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely, Kyle. Thank you.
And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, well, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. And for my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network